Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. It is September the 27th. We're picking up where we left off on Friday. And the topic is how to think big in a world that wants to keep you ever so small. And today is part 2. We're going to be going over points 4, 5, and 6. The last point that we shared with you on Friday was talking about the importance of being media free. Media free is one of the most powerful ways for you to get control of your mindset, for you to essentially defrag your thinking, and essentially then, the third essential, to hone yourself in on what your goals are, which is the whole point of what we're hopefully helping you to accomplish on this series that we're doing. But really go back and listen to Friday's podcast where it is talking to you, where I'm hopefully helping you understand the importance of completely and totally going media free. Now, I did get a lot of interesting comments after that. People who had gone media free in the past, gone back into media, essentially consuming it, and then took me up on my challenge from Friday and then decided to go media free again, and were relating to me the experiences of going through withdrawal from not actually having consumed any media over the weekend. That was the challenge of the homework from Friday's podcast, was to be completely media free for the sake of the weekend. And if just the very thought of being media free, by media free, what am I talking about, Julie?
Well, that's not watching the news, not listening to, I can't even barely call it the news, right?
No.
So media means a lot of things. I would put it in the category of stuff maybe you don't even really mean to be listening to.
Anything that's entering into your mind that basically is considered framed up as news, that's media. In some cases, that's podcasting. It's definitely YouTube. It's definitely going to be all social networks, any newspapers, any magazines.
Radio shows.
Right. So here's what's happened. And I know some of you have a little bit of you take it as an affront that we're suggesting that you defrag from media. And if you're our age plus or minus 5 years, it actually feels unnatural to not be paying attention to the news, almost like you feel like an obligation to watch the news.
It makes you feel disconnected somehow.
Right. And Julie and I understand. We grew up in the era where every night we'd all sit around as a family and watch Walter Cronkite. I mean, some of you guys.
Yeah, but that was back when they were saying what happened. This is what happened today.
So here's the difference, to Julie's point, is nowadays media news is trying to compete with salacious crap from the internet. And what the media does is it pays attention to what you click on. So if the media, even your stalwart channels, the ones you grew up with, like Julie and I, they will pay attention to what you are paying attention to, and they will give you more of that. And people like salacious stuff. They like, hype. They like, all the things, drama, all things that are decisive, things that are divisive.
Well, it's turned into opinion and, quote, entertainment.
Yeah, that's what media is. So before you reject the idea of being media free, realize that the news that we grow up on is no longer a trusted source of information. It just isn't. And that's the reason that podcasting, frankly, has become so prevalent. That's the reason that other things, but you got to be careful again. The nice thing about podcasting is that there aren't a lot of algorithms that are trying to pick and choose what podcast you're going to listen to.
You're still in control.
Right, you're still in control. Exactly. Whereas if you go to YouTube and you watch a video on, funny cat stories, and you watch a video on drag racing, and you watch a video on how to make, pumpkin pies, then have you noticed that every time you go to YouTube, you're getting more of what it thinks you want? So there's this little AI algorithm that's just feeding you more of the same thing that you want.
And now you have to watch drag racing kittens who want to make pie.
Exactly, right? It's a whole genre, in case you didn't know it. And so you're going to be getting more and more of that, to the point where you think everybody has drag racing kittens making pie. So that's the problem with these algorithms. That's the problem with all this social networking stuff, is it just gives you more of the same crap. So, and the mainstream media has followed, essentially using their own algorithms to give you the same type of crap. They'll track to what you're reading online. They'll see how many views, or literally how many people are watching different news stations. That's, look at CNN, for example, or Fox, or any of these other channels. They're bloviating. They're giving opinions. They're telling you, they're speaking to what is becoming a real problem in the United States, which is we're becoming tribal, and it's all because. And then what do? You believe a certain way. Everyone watches the same channels. You hear this sometimes on podcasting, especially podcasters that are on either ends of the coast. They are out of touch with the belief that everyone thinks the way they think, because everyone in their world does think the way they think, does watch the same things that they watch. They don't have open minds for opinions that aren't already like theirs. So the world gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and they think more and more myopically. The point being is the freedom that you'll feel when you unplug from all forms of media will be perhaps one of the best mental health exercises that you'll ever do in your life. It does, because you again, it's just a funny exercise though. Imagine today you are going to go media free for the whole week. How many of you, just with the very thought of that, are starting to look for hacks? Does that include my phone, Tim? Does that include?
What can I have?
Does that include reading my news feed on my Facebook? All forms of media. You can use your email.
Except our podcast.
You can check your voicemail on Julie and I's podcast, right? Every other form of media completely purged from your life for a week. How many of you are saying not just no, but hell no? How many of you are actually starting to feel anxious just the very thought of not hearing the latest breaking news, right? That's because you're addicted to it. And how are you ever, and all those thoughts that you have and all that addiction, it's all designed around getting you to feel a certain way emotionally. And I have a question for you. Is that feeling a positive way or a negative way? It's obviously negative. And so if the answer is negative, then how are you ever going to actually set big goals and let alone achieve them if you're totally and completely awash and saturating your brain with negative inputs? Because it all goes down to the same prevalent, overarching thought here. If you don't, at your very core, believe tomorrow is going to be better than today, you will never do today the things that will make tomorrow better. Matter of fact, you'll do things today that will reinforce tomorrow being worse. And that's what the media is all about. And it's only all about that way because that's what you're clicking on. So if you want to change it, stop clicking on the garbage. If you want to change it, start using like a proxy when you log into YouTube so it doesn't know what you watched in the back. Like, you have to opt out of it so we can then start teaching these systems that are feeding us all this, recurring anti-success crap, basically, anti-goal setting crap. We have to opt out of it, and then if we do decide to use it, you decide what you're going to feed it. In other words, find a story that's not salacious. Like, I tell you what I came across, actually. They have discovered footsteps, and I forget where, so don't ask me, footprints from a human that are so old that they're completely blowing away the essentially historical assumptions about the ascent of man, right?
Yeah.
They're completely blowing away how old humans and how long humans have been on the planet. Okay, that story was in the New York Times, which normally we do not read, but I saw that story and I read it, and it was actual journalisming.
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
It was fantastic. Now, I don't remember where I came across that, but I imagine that whatever the search algorithm is that saw that I actually read something that was somewhat intellectual is going to be completely screwed up, because normally I like to read about
car stuff.
No, well, cats making pumpkin pies, drag racing.
Right.
I mean, that is my niche.
I know. A friend of mine from high school knows exactly what you're talking about. And he's been experimenting on how screwed up he can make the feeds. And so he'll have something really random, like some kind of alien thing. And then he'll have something like super amiable, like fuzzy little kitten babies or something. And then he'll occasionally report back, like, you're not going to believe what my newsfeed gave me, because he's on purpose screwing with it. He even does it politically. He'll click on something from one side, then he'll click on something from the other side, just to see how confused. It's like a game. It's just a pastime.
Well, if you ever go to Google News, because I've done that before, Google News feeds you the news that it wants you to have,
That's right.
but not even based on previous clicks.
Yeah.
So Google News is very, it's very biased.
It is.
It's incredible.
It
Anyway,
is crazy.
opt
But
out.
anyway, here's something I've noticed. Because I'll read stuff from Nautilus or Smithsonian, just like little things I'm interested in, But what I've noticed by breaking up with the regular, quote, regular media, is you have so much more time to listen to what you want to listen to do what you want to do, to follow your own goals, and to put more time into what you actually care about versus what you're being programmed to care about.
Well, so when you go through the process of becoming media free, on the other side of that, after you go through the feelings of withdrawal, the actual physical and psychological pain some of you will experience, at the other side of that, your very interaction with other humans is going to be completely different. You will remember how you used to think, because it wasn't so much in the distant past, but your very interactions with someone who normally would not have been somebody you would have conversed with because you identified them as being the other, right? Because you were so awash with all this, the us versus them type thinking the media fills you with, that you're going to interact with this person in a new way, and you're going to realize, hey, they're just like me. Maybe they think differently about a couple things, but who cares? I can be a service to them. I can help them. I can be friends with them.
Yeah, you can learn something from them.
And there's other things too. You feel less stressed.
Yes, a lot less stressed. The things that you think about are not things lingering from today's news feed.
So this is a fun just thought, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't we're going to go over your next points, but how many of you believe 100% agents are naturally optimists? So I'm talking to our people here, but how many of you actually believe that tomorrow and next year is going to be better than today and this year? How many of you actually believe 100% that tomorrow is going to be? Now, I know you're being told that this is going to happen. There's going to be all these bad things happen, and this is the other things in politics and the economy and interest rates and inflation. But how many of you actually, despite all of those negative inputs, are believing that tomorrow is going to be better than today? Now, and next year's will be better than 2021. Now, with that thought, how many of you are actually taking steps to make it for sure so that next year, tomorrow and next year are going to be better than today? How many of you are actually doing something about it? And if you are innately an optimist, which is true with most of you, otherwise you wouldn't have been crazy enough to get into real estate, then one of the first things you can do to supercharge that optimism is not only create a plan, but also opt out of media.
That's right. So speaking of plans, I think I would add a question, which is how many of you believe that it is within your power to make next year better than this year or next quarter better than this? So you did points number 1 through 3. On Friday, we're going to start on number 4. When starting your goal setting, because this is new for a lot of people, stick to a shorter term goal, 30 to 90 days, no more than that. Break your goals down to monthly, weekly, and then daily. So for example, I like to start with something not real estate so that we can work them into real estate, just as easier to swallow sometimes. So for example, let's say that you have a physical goal of losing 15 pounds over 90 days, say by the new year. That's 5 pounds per month, about 4.25 per week. Well, that's a lot easier to concentrate on and achieve than thinking, well, I got 90 days to lose 15 pounds, right? How many people are going to do anything about it today if they know they've got 90 days?
So a goal is a dream with an action plan, which we talk about in our best-selling book, Harris Rules, which is available everywhere, Barnes & Noble and whatnot. And by the way, it is a perfect Christmas gift.
Yes, it is.
It is. And it is not too soon to talk about Christmas or it's Christmas season, because we're 90 days away, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Very crazy.
But the reality of it is that start with now, some of you would say, using Julie's great example, and this is what most people do, I'm going to start my diet. And I'm going to start it after. So like I remember when Orange Theory opened up in Georgetown, Texas, our old home. And they opened up in it was like August or September. And we were one of the first people to sign up. And we didn't even.
I remember standing there in the blazing heat. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Under that little orange tent, right? And we didn't even know, honestly, what the hell we were signing up for.
I thought I was going to get some orange juice that day.
We thought, well, orange tent, let's just check out what this is. Maybe it's some sort of juice bar or something. I'm telling you, we did not know what we were doing. I'm not making that up. Yeah. And then they said it's a gym. It's called Orange Theory. And we're going okay, where's my orange juice?
Yeah.
And then they walk us into the studio and we're starting to get it. Everything's orange. The lights are orange. Okay, Orange Theory. We still didn't know what Orange Theory was, but we signed up anyway.
Yep.
And, Julie being Julie, she's wanting to ask questions and sort of research the physiological implications of whatever this orange zone is and all the rest of it. Splat points. But nope, let's sign up. Okay, we signed up. Now, normally, what we'd originally, first of all, we weren't looking for a gym. Though we did want to get in better shape. Second of all, had we not found a gym, we were still probably planning on doing something to increase our physical fitness, but we weren't really going to start until probably the beginning of the following year, like everybody else. I mean, we weren't overweight. We were going on walks. We were doing some physical stuff, but nothing like Orange Theory. But instead, we joined, I think it was the end of third quarter into fourth quarter, and we started our new year, essentially what we would have been procrastinating for 3 or 4 months in the third or fourth quarter of the previous year. And then when we rolled into the next year, we had tons of momentum. And I'll never forget all the people who did join and did start the new year. None of them basically were around by the time the April or May hit.
And the coaches actually tell you that.
Yeah.
They're like, we have a big influx right around January, and then everybody drops off within a month or so.
Right.
Yeah. So why do we bring this up? Well, the next question is, how will you do it? You've got to create a weekly plan that you can stick to. So, and I threw in here as well, because I've had coaching clients do this, consider attaching the deadline to something significant like going to a wedding or a vacation. Sometimes you can, work your days out to that so that you have that extra level of motivation. If you know you're going to be on the beach in 90 days, you're more likely to work on that 15 pounds.
I'm going to point this out because it's worth doing. A lot of the things I see on social media, depending on what you decide to pay attention to or not, like an Instagram in particular, because we use Instagram, we publish our podcast and all the rest of it. But I do think some people, when they post a before picture of themselves, that takes a lot of courage.
I agree.
And they say if they post a before picture of themselves, like in down to their skivvies, and I'm going to lose this amount of weight, and that's on Instagram. Now you can pull it down at any point, but by posting that and sharing that, that is an incredible level of commitment and humility.
Yes.
And then I love seeing the after pictures, right?
Yeah, they're awesome.
Because when you have that's external accountability. You might pick up some, who knows what, but the reality of it is you're going to be motivating other people. People are going to see your picture, see your courage, admiring what you're doing, the commitment that you're making. And then you're going to pick up a lot of other people that are along the same path. And that's something that nobody will ever tell you until you've experienced it. When you're on the right path, you're always going to come across fellow travelers who will help carry the psychological and sometimes physical burden.
That's right. So next, add accountability. This is, you were alluding to that with your example. Go to Orange Theory 3 times a week and or hire a trainer. You can do CrossFit. You can do all kinds of different things. But add some accountability. And when I was typing that, I was thinking about when we walk our 6 miles around here and we see our friend Bella, who is walking as human, that we joke about, right? So there's all kinds of accountability. Maybe you're
Julie,
not somebody that's going to hit the treadmill.
By saying that, you sound absolutely insane.
I know,
So-
but I'm going to explain it. So
Okay.
maybe you're not somebody that's going to pound
He
out
does
the
not
treadmill.
actually have a pet human. Okay.
No, but he shows up to this guy's house and they go on a walk together.
Yep.
Okay. He is a trainer. He knows how to do, God knows even how many, exercises. We've tried his classes.
The
They
guy's
make us
probably
sick.
about 5'6", and he
He's
is
a tank.
He has a tank. He's got one of the. It's incredible. He was wearing shorts once, and I like his legs were like the size of tree trunks.
It's amazing.
It's extraordinary.
He knows how to do all that kind of stuff. But for this particular client, what is working for him, and he has the accountability of Bella showing up to his place, and I don't know how long they go on walks for, but they're very consistent about it. And they walk and talk. Start with something like that if you're not somebody that's, going to do the more serious stuff. But add the accountability. Now, the same technique can be applied to achieving your magic number of listings. What is that again? Again, that's in the Harris Rules book. It's in the treasure map. But the magic number is the number of listings you must have in your own inventory at all times to meet or achieve your monthly goals. So let's say that you need 3 actives at all times to get at least 2 closings per month. Now, you're probably going to get more than that, but we want predictability here. But maybe you've got 0 actives right now. Choose a short-term deadline by which you will have those 3 actives. If you're a new agent, this might take 90 days. But if you're an experienced agent, you might be able to do it in a week, but be specific. Well, this came out on our Facebook Live session today for our Premier Coaching client, Sue Romans. Her goal, because she's a very experienced listing agent and broker, but right now she's temporarily listless. So her goal as somebody who's experienced is to potentially get those 3 actives by the end of the week.
So Real Estate Treasure Map, which Julie mentioned, we'll give it to you. It is for sale on Amazon, but we'll just give it to you. Text the word success to 47372. Text the word success to 47372. And when you do, not only are we going to give you a link to download the Real Estate Treasure Map, but you'll also be entitled to a free coaching call with one of our new member coaches. So text the word success to 47372. This is the first thing that all of you should be doing. Just in any facet, wherever you are in your real estate success spectrum, you need to get your treasure map done. That is your fill in the blank business and life plan. It's 72 pages, I think. So this is not something lightweight. Do it with your spouse, your partner, do it with your kids. Include everyone in your family to help you complete this. This is the path, the journey, the actual GPS coordinates for the next 12, 36 months, however long you want to set it out for. So just text the word success to 47372, and that is going to be your fill-in-the-blank business and life plan. We've completely done all the work for you. All you've got to do is download it and fill in the blanks. Text the word success to 47372. By the way, the output of the Real Estate Treasure Map on the business side is going to be you learning what your real estate magic number of listings is, and that's what Julie just talked about.
Well, that's it. So just like you would hire a coach at Orange Theory to help you run better, You got to get coaching and help and have an actual plan to reach your magic number, because isn't that the next question? Okay, so I've identified that. I've done the treasure map, but how do I go about it? What am I supposed to actually do? That's why we have accountability through coaching. That's why we have the treasure map. And everybody's a little bit different. The plan that, say, Sue has is going to be a totally different plan than what another person has.
So you know this, and I don't think anyone will be surprised when I tell them this. We have more agents joining our coaching program in fourth quarter and usually January of next year than any other 4-month time frame during the whole year. So this right now is when most agents are joining coaching, because most agents have had a lot of success or had a lot of butt kicking or a little bit of both during the past 9 months or whatever.
Be introspective,
and they're starting to be introspective and realizing that had they actually had the skill set to pre-qualify, had they actually had the skill set to go on a listing presentation, know what to say and how to say it, they would have earned a lot more money had they taken a lot more listings. That's the whole point of being in the coaching program, guys. You can't shortchange your skill set, because your skill set that you get from our coaching program, that is your business system. That is what you might, look, you're going to go and be seduced into buying leads or working on your brand. What are you going to do when you get the business? You think you're just going to get it? You think they're just going to list with you or buy with you? No, you have to know what to say and how to say it. It's called having the right to earn the business. So when you lose, opposed to looking for some external reason why you didn't get the listing, be introspective, for God's sake. Be honest with yourself. You didn't take the listing because you didn't earn the right to work with that particular buyer or seller because you didn't have the skill set. They chose someone else over you. Not because the other agent gave them a higher price on a listing site or told them they cut the commission on a listing site or whatever. It's because they found the other agent had a more compelling value proposition than you. They won't say it like that, your clients that you lost, but that's the reality. And sometimes it takes you losing 1, 2, 3, 10 times before you finally come to the realization that maybe with a little bit more of a skill set and a little bit more of a honed-in professional approach, you'd win a lot more than you are now. Well, and the really smart of you are going to learn, there's an old saying, right? A smart man or woman learns from,
mistakes of others.
Right. Well, you can learn from the mistakes of others. You can learn from you learn from your mistakes, or you can learn from the mistakes of others. And the mistakes of others are going to be all the agents who fail out of the business within typically 24 months. Those are the agents that waited too long to actually get the skill set. And what are you guys waiting for? So text the word success to 47372.
Well, what's interesting is everything you said is especially true for newer agents who don't know what they don't know, but it's also for the more experienced agents, like the Zoom call that we just got off of, that sometimes they can have a lot of success and they start to rely on that success. And then maybe they stop doing like the 5th step of the 7-step listing process.
A smart man learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others.
There you go.
I'd have gotten it eventually.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, even the more grizzled veterans, sometimes you guys don't see. We had an example today of a very experienced agent that thought it was one thing, but when in fact we kind of grounded out, it was a different reason for why the listing wasn't taken.
Are we talking about Steve?
Perhaps.
Yes, Steve.
Okay.
So Steve, if you're listening.
We don't have to torture him further.
We won't torture you, Steve Myers.
But the point is that even our more grizzled veterans can benefit from an interested third party that can drill down and find out what's going on with you. Okay, so point number 5 is a very interesting, I would say it's a more advanced point number 4. When you're better at goal setting and achieving, you'll know that if you're thinking too small, if you can reverse engineer how to accomplish a goal. What does it mean to reverse engineer something?
Well, I thought a lot about that. And let me give them 2 thoughts. I'm going to go a little bit on a flight of fancy. I think if you're setting a goal that you can easily reverse engineer, you're by definition, not setting a big enough goal. Yeah. I think I mentioned this on Friday. But I've been thinking a lot about that for Julie and I in our business. So I'm going to say that again. If you can think of a goal and then within a little bit of work, you can figure out how to accomplish the goal, that's not a big enough goal. That's just the next sort of step that you would have been on anyway. So if you really want to learn how to think big, think of a goal that's so big that you have no clue how you go about accomplishing it. Now figure out how to do it. That's kind of badass.
Yes, because you're using your current knowledge and experience versus forcing yourself to learn and think bigger, right? So if you can reverse engineer, you're just setting incremental goals versus really big ones. Remember, the title of this podcast series is How to Think Bigger in a World That Wants to Keep You Small. So what would be a radical goal that you don't actually know how to accomplish? Well, maybe your magic number is 3 listings, but you actually know how to do that. In fact, you know how to do that really well. You just haven't been doing it.
Well, so the question would be like, what's the maximum number of listings you've ever had at one time, Bob? And Bob will say 3, and then your coach, it will say, well, then you definitely know how to take 3 listings. Oh yeah, I could do that, no problem. So okay, you could have 3 listings at all times. How about 10? How would you take 10 listings to have 10 listings at all time? Well, we're really sinking today.
Well, so what would you have to do? What would you have to stop doing, right? And I gave another example. Instead of wanting a 15-foot ski boat that you could probably buy used on Craigslist this afternoon.
And put on a credit card.
Right. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you figure out how to buy a 100-foot yacht. Well, maybe you don't know anything about that. You'll have to expand your exposure, which will in turn make you think bigger. And even the people that you'll have to talk to about it will expand your thoughts. Like, who do you know that has a 100-foot yacht? What's that like?
So I'll tell you about a funny conversation I had. I did tell you about this. I didn't tell you about this.
Tell me.
So I'm on the phone with somebody. I'm not going to mention his name.
Okay.
And this person is one of the largest EXP guys, and he earns, I'll just say it. You guys won't believe it, but he's probably going to earn next year between $15 and $20 million. And that's all from revenue share, from EXP Realty.
Yes.
And so I asked him, what are his goals for next year? And he rattled off, well, I want to do this and the other thing. And I go, was there anything else? And he goes, well, I've really been thinking about buying a private plane. And then his own plane. And then he goes, but I've been thinking, so how would you go about accomplishing that? And he didn't know. Oh, now that's a good goal.
Yeah, that's thinking big.
Because he didn't know how, it was not going to be a small private plane. It's going to be a private plane that's probably going to cost $10 or $15 million, maybe even more. He had no,
how do you even go about that?
He hadn't even, Julie, he's never been on a private plane.
Yeah.
He's never chartered on a private plane.
But how exciting is that?
Totally. He didn't know how much they cost. He didn't know how much they made. Now, Julie and I have friends with private planes, and I'm here to tell you, and I didn't tell him this because I didn't want to, crap on his goal, basically. But owning a private plane is insane, the amount of money you have to spend. We have probably about 10 friends with private planes here in Dorado, and I think every single one of them, after they tell you they have a private plane, the next words out of their mouths are, don't buy a plane.
Yeah, right. And, we had a similar conversation with somebody that knows about luxury yachts. Were they called like super yachts or something? Like, I don't even know that was a thing.
When we talk like this, people feel disconnected to us. But guys, you got to remember that Julie and I are just poor kids from Columbus, Ohio.
That's why we're enamored by it, because we don't know about that stuff.
Yeah, well, okay, so we'll tell the story about the yachts.
Sure.
So we had 3 gentlemen visit us who were thinking about joining eXp Realty, but also own in Miami, and we're going to start one here in Puerto Rico, essentially a business that caters to people who have super yachts, which are over 100 feet, and their average customer's yacht is over 200 feet. And what they do is they retrofit the yachts. So listeners, this is crazy. So evidently, if you charter your yacht, you have to essentially keep a log for how many hours are on the yacht, on the motors and all the rest of it, because I guess they don't.
It's an insurance thing, I think.
Well, but it's an insurance thing, but it's also they don't want people chartering private boats and their boats out in the middle of the Caribbean or the Mediterranean, and it sinks. I mean, that would be bad,
That's
right?
bad.
Yeah. So they make it so these people that charter their yachts, and most people with these big mega yachts do charter their yachts. So they rent them out. They're like VRBOing their yachts. Well, when they told us how much money it costs to retrofit a yacht, I was blown away. Here's what the answer was. Mm-hmm. They have to, basically just to keep a boat, and this is just maintenance on these big boats. I don't even know call it a boat. That sounds hilarious.
It's a ship
These
at that point,
floating houses, right? It averages out to be 1% of the boat's value per month.
Per month.
Per month.
I know. But
that's not including paying the captain or buying the diesel fuel or the crew or where you're going to park it. I mean, you don't park a boat, do you?
Thank you, Mike.
You moor it.
See, this is the point of thinking bigger is you've got to learn some stuff, right? I'll tell you what's interesting to me was that they're in the real estate world too. And so that this is a thing to find land to develop to be able to service super yachts.
Yeah.
Like that's not in my normal residential wheelhouse necessarily.
Well, let's finish the story.
I thought it was really fascinating.
They had just won a long-term lease on what was a dock,
a military thing, right?
Yeah, an old Navy shipyard. Mm-hmm. And so they won it here in Puerto Rico, and that's where they're going to be building all of this. That's all the information we can really talk about. But the moral of the story is, this is a conversation that Julie and I were having that was supposed to be about them joining EXP, and they wanted to join our group. And we ended up, I couldn't stop asking questions.
It was fascinating.
Because it was fascinating. And here was my big takeaway. I am never getting a damn boat ever.
No, but now you know, right? It's better to have friends with yachts, right?
Oh, totally. We need more friends with yachts and boats. Again,
Yes.
we're not rich weirdos. Well, we might be now, but we didn't start out that way. Julie and I, if you're listening to us, trust me when I tell you, we've been married for 30 years as of the 15th of this month. And when Julie and I got started, we were,
Less than poor.
Less than poor. Really, we got married and we were 50 grand in debt from student loans.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was the first or second time we moved. No, it was longer because it was long enough ago that I thought, isn't that interesting? My original grocery budget I had written down on a Lego pad, and I found it in some box I was moving. We spent, when we were first married, the budget was $13 a week.
Yeah.
And so that would get you a couple cans of Campbell's soup, then like a 10-pack of ramen noodles for $1. And maybe some fruit. I'm sure we didn't have the best diet back then because we had a $13 a week budget. So yeah, if you guys are wondering, that's where we came from. And when we got into real estate, we were sharing a car, the Mazda Millennia, if you remember that. And we had detailing cars, and I was working at a Christmas Village. I mean, we've been around the block.
Well, it's important you guys understand that we're just like you. And I was telling him actually last week on the podcast, I think on Friday, I don't remember.
Yep.
About Hamburger Helper, because I was commenting on the fact that groceries are getting so expensive and it's extraordinary. And the food inflation, now that it's entered into people's lives, you're going to really start feeling, I don't mean just for all of you, but you're going to start seeing and feeling the true effects of inflation on everyone. So inflation and house values, you guys are benefiting from, but now you're seeing rising costs for everything. And this is really important you understand this. This, on the other side of this, is not a bubble that's going to burst. I hear people saying that all the time. No, this is what happens from inflation. What happens during an inflationary time, even the government's saying this now, prices inflate to whatever the new normal is. So you're seeing that in real estate. You're seeing that in cars. You're seeing that in consumer items. You're seeing that now in food. And it is scary.
They go up and they stay up.
Well, yeah, they go up and they stay up until maybe something changes. Like maybe, for example, the demand decreases and then the prices might come down, or more producers of whatever the product is enter, and it might. But what we're talking about here is pure inflation. And so seeing all this happen, I remember back when I was growing up, we didn't have money to buy red meat. We didn't have any meat. Like having meat in our house when we were growing up was something really rare, like not even hamburger. Yeah. And so, but what we did have was Hamburger Helper, and what Hamburger Helper is in Spam. You know, in between the two, I'd take Spam over Hamburger Helper.
Fried Spam was okay.
But you take a little tiny bit of hamburger, and you'd add it to Hamburger Helper, and then you basically would all of a sudden have something that resembled hamburger, sort of, kind of, maybe not, right? But the reason I'm mentioning this is because Hamburger Helper sales are starting to increase, and they're coming out with more food additives, consumer food additives, so you can essentially create more. And the other thing was fascinating, and everyone should Google this: national average cost of peanut butter. And peanut butter is one of the food staples everyone pays attention to. There's a lot of, if you think about what goes into a jar of peanut butter, there's a lot of you got the guy making the peanuts, you got the guy making the jar, the guy printing the label, the machine, the facility, the whole thing, right? There's a lot of things that are associated with making peanut butter, but look at the cost of peanut butter. It's going up by, in some markets, more than 100%. And that's extraordinary. And are people talking about that? Well, they're going to be talking about that. Again, I'm only trying to help you guys understand that the journey that Julie and I have been on and the path that we've been on for all these years, for decades now, in our coaching company and the things that we share with you guys, the reason that we ultimately know what we're saying to you is state-of-the-art military-grade truth is because this is how we've lived for 30 years. This is what we've done for 30 years. And this is what happens. And it's repetitious boredom, right? If you want to know if you want to accomplish long-term success, it is doing the same thing over and over again. Or as I say, and Julie and I say in our book and whatnot, it's doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And it takes a lot of that over long periods of time. But what really is the genesis of all that is really goal setting. Because when you have, like Julie and I, here's what I did, listeners, totally off script. But yesterday, Julie had sick with some form of plague,
which I'm
pretty sure you're giving to me. Yeah. So anyway, I printed off calendars between now and 2024, and Julie and I have big financial goals, things that we've already committed to financially for the next 4 years, and some of them are like X will be done in 3 years, but X will require 4 milestone payments leading up to whatever X is.
Yeah.
And I wrote all those things out for the next 4 years. And those are, that's the financial roadmap we have. And then I worked it backwards. Okay, these are the big, these are the extraordinary or extraordinary expenses that we have. This is our personal overhead. This is how much, and I did
You're doing the goal setting.
Yeah, I did the goal setting for her yesterday through 2024. And afterwards, when I did that, I felt incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's less. We have a lot of things we've committed to, but
Yeah.
it's less. I don't know, maybe intimidating to know, like, okay, here's how it plays out. Here's what you want to do. Here's what you have to do. Here's the schedule of when you're going to do it.
Right.
So a goal is a dream with an action plan. They have to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
And
so
written,
you did the timely part.
and reviewed regularly.
Written and
Yeah.
reviewed, right? So I like what you did with the printing out 3 years worth of 12-month calendars.
Yep.
And that's something everybody should be doing. And you can post that. That's part of your visual accountability.
Well, it's just something
So,
basic. Like we're
it's
going
basic.
on our 31st wedding anniversary, which is next September. We're going on a cruise to what is it?
It's
Where are we
around
going?
Italy, Monaco, and
No, it's southern
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean.
Look,
We don't
we
even know where the hell we're going. Okay, but I mean
somewhere out there.
that's not free, so that's kind of a chunk of change, and so that's on the goal for next September. And so, here's what I told Julie after I got done doing it. Before she looked at what I'd created, she said, "Well, what'd you think?" I said, "I think we're setting our goals too low," because I was able
because
to.
now you know.
Because now I know, and I was able to write it out, how much money we were projected to earn, how much money, we have from just Julie and I have income spokes, just the way prescribed to all of you guys. And then I saw what our, essentially our expenses were going to be through 2024. And I really do think, honestly, we're setting our goals
You know
too
why?
low.
Because of this last point we presented. You can reverse engineer how we're going to do it. We know how we're going to do it.
So what you're telling me is I want to figure out a way to call Sir Richard Branson, and we need to figure out how to
borrow his island for a while?
No, but we need to figure out. We need to figure out how to be his first paying customers when he is able to go into space. What do you think?
Something like that.
I'm not getting
You can go first.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not getting a very.
That's
I'm not confident you're into that one.
Yeah. No, we'll figure something out.
Well,
but the point is the same, though, is that we pretty much know how to do it. And maybe we need to think bigger. It's something that, we have to burn some new brain cells to figure out.
Well, if we don't know how to do something, we know somebody who will tell us how to do it. And that goes back to the point you made about Orange Theory, right? When you're on a journey, when you're on a path, when you're on that path, you're going to come across other people that are on that path that will befriend you along the journey. Not all of them will make it.
But they'll make your journey shorter, too.
Right.
Because you don't have to bang your head into the wall trying to figure stuff out. Like before, just to go back to Orange Theory, it's because you're wearing an orange shirt. But we thought that we pretty much knew how to work out.
Nope.
But no, these people are trained in how to work out. There's a big difference.
Yeah, well, when we were at Orange Theory, you never wanted to run by me.
Nope.
Because you don't like me coaching you when you're running, because I was running faster than you. Eventually you caught up. It took you like 1,000 years, but you did. But what I would do is I would go and find the fastest guy in the gym that was essentially, I had no right ever to be running next to.
Like somebody who's 10 or 15 years younger and maybe was a Marine in a past life.
Totally.
Or something.
And so there was a guy that used to basically play professional football, and he basically can run like almost a 4-minute mile. And that's the guy I ran next to. And then I basically befriended him. I started making him laugh and stuff. And then he started telling me little things I should be doing that I'm not doing, little things I wasn't even aware I was doing. And there's this other guy that I'd run up against he never told me until I figured it out. He was a cop, but he had been in the military. He was in special forces, and so I started running next to him.
But that's the thing. Don't you think probably he learned some things when he was in special forces?
Well, yes,
right?
Of course. But I found those guys on the journey.
And you did it on purpose.
And I did it on purpose. And had I not actually sought those guys out to run next to them,
Yeah.
even though I never was even able to come close to them, they obliterated.
Yeah, but you still learned techniques that improved what your run times were.
Totally,
And you
completely.
had more fun doing it because
yeah.
you guys would harass each other,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching one of the coaches, Andy. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
And, same thing. She's like, I don't know, 15 or 20 years younger than me. But it was the first time I'd ever seen
Hey,
somebody.
Julie.
What?
About everyone's 15 or 20 years
Yeah, I
younger than
know.
you.
But here's what struck me. I had never seen anybody run at an 11 incline, 11 miles an hour, and not die.
You know, she's like 25 years younger
I know,
than you.
but still, like
Yeah.
I'd never seen somebody
did.
do that for 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, there were people in there, if you guys know treadmills, like pretty much Andy, and there was probably 3 or 4 other people, including the 2 guys I'd run up against,
Yeah, it
who
was
had
incredible.
turned the damn thing up to 11, which is basically like Spider-Man
hill
running.
climb.
It's running up a wall,
Yeah.
and then crank the thing up to 12. Now, they couldn't do it for like a mile, but they could do that for like, I couldn't.
Consistently. Yeah.
Consistently. It was insane.
Like I don't think even now, because I try to hit the treadmill 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, it's hard for me to even stay on it at an 11 incline, much less run. But we're talking about getting different and better exposure, right? And so that was something I didn't know that you could do that. So I wouldn't have had the thought, I wonder if I could do that, right? You have to be exposed to that.
But
to
now
think bigger.
when we have a new coaching client that comes into the fold, right? One of the things that their coach is going to ask them is look for past things in their past where they've been successful.
Yes.
And if you, the reason is because if someone's been successful in their past, they've got that software, and all you got to do is re-trigger it, remind them, and so that's what you look for. Look for it in yourself, right? Look for it in people you hire or associate with. Look for people if they're not being high performers now. Look to see if they ever have been.
Oh yeah, and then they're in trouble because now they're actually a lot easier to coach because it's a shorter path. You just have to make, you have to remind them the disciplines and the practice that made them successful at that.
And
are the same.
if you haven't been successful, to Julie and I's example with regards to going to Orange Theory, or to Julie and I's example about building wealth, for example, the stories we were trying to tell you, hopefully you guys took those in the right light that was intended, right? But what we did is we had absolutely no background in doing any kind of physical stuff at that level, 0. So we sought people out. Right? Mm-hmm. If you didn't have that, and now if I'd been a football star, that's hilarious, and I really knew how to work out, and I was in college, and it's like some of these guys I'd work out with, they knew what they were doing and how to do it. And let's say they got fat, they knew they could get back there because they did it before. They knew exactly how to do it, but most importantly, they knew they could do it because they have done it before. Even if they were older and not as in great shape, they could get back there. I didn't have any of that. That software,
knowledge,
right?
yeah.
I didn't have that, so I would hang out with those guys and get it from them. That comes back down to exposure. So if you're trying to improve yourself, your skill set, your financial situation, if you're trying to improve your lifestyle, if you're trying to improve of all that stuff, you're most likely going to have to seek out people that have done it at a higher level if you haven't actually done it, which chances are you haven't when it comes to finances.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so we're going to round the bend. We're going to pick up tomorrow where we are leaving off today. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this series. Julie and I are. Hopefully we're not enjoying it too much, though. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day. Oh, and as always, if you're interested in joining eXp Realty, which many of you are, Julie and I would love the opportunity to sponsor you at eXp Realty. If you're ready to join eXp and you're looking for a sponsor, we are formally applying for the job. Text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.